there is more. I believe there is more. I believe. So I open my hands to receive all that your love has in store. Still I believe there is more. I believe there is more. I believe. So I open my hands to receive all that your love has in store. Lord, I believe.
Amen. If you want to, you can move that chair over here or,
Okay, I'll
or
sit
just sit right there. Whatever you want to do. There you go. Jacob, there's a chair there if you want to sit in it.
I'm good.
Okay. Good to be here this morning, and it's a beautiful day outside. Good to see everyone here, everyone on the broadcast, and I've been working on a couple of things. The broadcast kind of, the lighting in here is just so bad whenever you're, at nighttime it's not good enough. Of course, in the daytime it about blinds you because it's a sunroom. So I had some lights that they were just too much for the room. Made it look like you were glowing. And I went and found, I was looking on YouTube and talking to some people, and they said, you should go pick up a couple of ring lights. So I looked them up, what they were, went and got those, and it seems like the lighting is a lot better than it was. So we will keep trying with those. So anyway, it's good to be here. And we've been talking a lot on functional body. It's good to see Brother Darrell and his family back with us. It's been a while. Darrell's been having a tough time, but I've always believed he'll come out of it. I know he's still having a tough time, but he's here, so that says a whole lot. So this morning I wanted to talk on our moment in time, and stay on the same line of thought as the functional consciousness. Stay on that for a while and talk about our moment in time. There is a set time for the gospel, for the changes, for all those things, and when you're moving in a line of progression, when you're moving through a lot of processes. And I want to take us back somewhat and turn us, I say take us back, I want to take us inward, turn us inward through millions of years in this time, bring it up to this time that we have together. And first thing I want to say is, let's find out if we were back there millions, billions of years ago. A lot of people say, well, we weren't even there. We were just in the mind, all kinds of different things. We weren't in existence, and we came into existence when we came here. So I was looking at Genesis 1:26 and 27, and it tells us that the Spirit of God said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. So it goes on to say, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth in the first chapter earlier. So we can see that he said, let us, so it was definitely, he wasn't, quote, alone. Let us make man in our image and after our likeness. And we know that Jesus said in St. John 4, God is a spirit, So, it's very easy for me to understand to say that if there is a God, it's a spirit. And so then we know that Jesus said God is a spirit. We know that Jesus also said, you are gods to whom the word of God comes to. And the psalmist makes the statement, you are gods, and you will die like men, like the princes of this world. So, man is God. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So, it's a little different than what we think when you start thinking about it and paying attention to what all the prophets and Christ himself said. You're gods. You'll die like men, like the princes of this world, but you're the gods. You were the let us make man in our image. You were the one back there that created the heaven and the earth. It was us together. And so when we get that in our mind, that man is spirit, when he said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness, he wasn't talking about this human flesh. It was talking about taking our spirit, because God is a spirit. We made ourselves after an image, or we made an image after ourselves, and that image is the flesh. But we have been the God all along that's doing all of these things. And so when we understand that thoroughly, over the last few years, we've really took a look at it, that we are in fact gods. We created the heavens and the earth. We done all of these things. Then I will make this statement: you are spirit. That's why many of the prophets said he doesn't look on the flesh. We don't know one another after the flesh any longer. Why? Because you're spirit. And this flesh is an image that we created of ourselves so we could move from the unseen into the seen manifestation, where you can see it with a natural eye. So, understanding that you are spirit and you cast an image of yourself, and then you moved into it and began to live. You, the spirit, are God, and you, the flesh, is an image that you created of yourself. This means we created a path and a way for us to move into humanity. It's not that the earth wasn't already in existence. It very plainly says that. It was without form and void. It was here. It was elemental. It was in the universe, but it was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And you, being the spirit, you created a path and a way for us to move into the earth. So when we begin to put on earth and take on humanity and put on the elements, then God began to walk in the earth. And that's you and me. That's humanity. And when we understand that, we're not looking somewhere else for some other being greater than us. It's us that's doing all of this. Our spirit is eternal in the Great Spirit. Now, it's not two different spirits, it's the same spirit. But it measures out a certain amount. It's like the ocean. You take this glass and you dip some of the ocean out. All the ingredients of the ocean are in the glass. The ocean is in the glass. But the difference is a measurement thereof. There's not as much ocean in the glass as there is in the ocean. That's the difference. It's the measurement thereof. Our spirit is eternal in the Great Spirit. And as we transformed, we moved to vibrate and form frequencies so that we could cast ourselves into and open our attributes that lay within us. So we had, as a spirit, God is spirit, man is spirit, we had in us many attributes, including the flesh. It's something that we could move through the elements, and we began to create vibrations and frequencies in the universe of us. And as we created these vibrations and created these frequencies and done all of these things, it began to take form. And so we transformed, we moved to vibrate and form frequencies that we could cast ourselves into and open our attributes that lay within us. These elements were what you would call earth. We formed, we took on the elements, we moved it beyond void and darkness, and we began to cast ourselves or make an image of ourselves that we could move into. The elements were without form, without void. We didn't create the elements. Elements are eternal. They will always be here. They always have been here. They always will be, and they're here now. They are eternal. We didn't create them, but what we done was formed frequencies and vibrations and sounds and all sorts of things that would formulate or pull together these elements to make an image of everything that was attributes within us. So these elements were without form and void. We didn't create the elements. Rather, we guided them or used them to a vibration and frequency that pulled together the earth. And we were still in spirit. That's what we are. We always will be. We are spirit. When we understand that, we can begin to understand what we are doing with everything and how we're moving everything about and how we are forming everything. And it's not really us. It's an image and a likeness of us. We set a nature of laws within the elements. So we move the elements out of without form and darkness upon the face of the deep void. We move the elements out of that, and we created vibrations and frequencies that pulled the elements together, created the universe, created the earth, created all these things, and we're still in spirit at that time. And so when we did that, we set a nature of laws within the elements that started our descent. Descent from where? From unseen to seen. From a world of spirit, theophany, whatever you want to call it, into a world of earth. And we begin to form that earth and form the elements to take on, I forget how many thousands of elements there are now. We've always had 16 dominant major elements, but then there are so many others now that they are finding. So we did what we had to do to form and start our descent from spirit to humanity, a descent to where God could become the Word made flesh. And we were all still spirit. We were all there. We were all alive. We were all well. We'd done this. And what we did when we formed our descent, we moved within the elements, carried ourselves in the elements, our spirits, into elemental, remember last week, into elemental restraints, limitations, uncertainties, a loss of freedom, and a loss of understanding. The descent took us into where it brought in fear, it brought in uncertainty, it brought in less freedom, it restrained us, it began to, I guess the best way to put it, descend or download us into something that we had created, and we were going to have to live within those restraints, like four walls, like whatever it might be. If you take something, you tie your arms and hands and legs and everything up. We moved into a restraint within a human body, and in so doing, it brought on. We were then held within our own created vibration. We created the vibration and the frequencies, highs and lows, and sounds and voices, and we created all of this vibration and frequencies. For what reason? To be able to look at, feel, have emotion, and understand all the attributes that were within us. We were spirit. We had many, many, many attributes, innumerable amount of attributes within us. So we've done this, but in descending, remember he said, he that ascended first descended into the heart of the earth and set the captive free. Well, our descension was to take us into the heart of the earth, into ourselves, to understand one another, to turn inward, and then it was to take that person and set it free, or open up its attributes so you would understand who you are, and what you're doing in life. So we descended into an elemental restraint, limitation, uncertainty, a loss of freedom, loss of understanding. We were then held within our own created vibrations and frequencies, acting under something in a descent. When things start going into chaos, there has to be a rule of law for a season during that descent. So we set up a rule of law, restraints on ourselves, the laws of nature, the laws of the Spirit, the Bible, all sorts of laws. We set up creeds and dogmas, and we set up all kinds of things for ourselves to restrain us and hold us inside the law. And as you remember last week, I said we've been inside this restraint, and it's like we're beating against the walls back and forth, trying to get out of this law and trying to get out of these things that we created for ourselves. So we were held within our own created vibration and frequency for a season, and it's called a descent. And this frequency, acting under the rule of law for a season during that time. So we moved into the earth. I'm talking about the earth. We then, what did we do? What did our prophet tell us we did? We brooded over the earth. We were still spirit form. We created an earth that when we decided on a portal to move into the earth, to put us into these restraints so that we would understand all of our attributes. As we were deciding to do that, we were brooding over the earth. We then brooded over the earth as theophany. We moved about the earth. The earth was our creation. It's our body. We were getting ready to step into it and take on this body. And we were brooding or moving over the earth and just feeling and emotion and all these kinds of things, and checking and looking at the attributes that would come from the earth and the theophany. And we could, for a long time, we could put it on or take it off, as simple as could be. Melchizedek. We were after the order of Melchizedek, who put a body on and talked to Abraham, took it off. Put a body on, talked to Moses, took it off. Just formed a body, came, picked up Elijah's body, took it away. Came, picked up Moses' body, took it away. Enoch's body. So the theophany was a form of spirit, and we were that spirit, and then we created an earth and a universe, and we begin to form these elements into a condition where that we could have a portal to move through, or an opening or a veil to pull back and move through and step into what we created. So we could put it off, put it on as we please, spirit. However, it wasn't the image that we wanted, because we wanted an image that would express our attributes. And that still wasn't expressing our attributes. It wasn't doing what we wanted to do as theophany, just putting on and taking off flesh anytime we wanted to. And the earth, we formed it, and we formed it to be cast into our own image and likeness. We created it wasn't what we wanted yet, and we were brooding over the earth, and we created a portal into humanity. We created animals, we created the botany life, we created the birds, we created the ocean life. We created all of these lives as we brooded over the earth, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, 5. Not really days, but it was messages. It was us casting the attributes from us into the earth to create a paradise, so to speak, a body that we wanted to walk around in and show an image of ourselves. Let us make man in our image. So we were doing that. And we brooded over the earth. We moved in and out of it. Then we began to think about and created a portal into humanity wherein we could recast ourselves again. Not just theophany, picking up dust and putting it down and all these sorts of things, but we wanted to do something else. We created a portal into humanity wherein we could recast ourselves again into some more vibration and frequency. And this vibration and frequency would carry us all the way to the extreme of death, hell, the grave, missing the mark. Theophany couldn't do that. We created a way for us to open the attributes that were in us so we could understand ourselves. We brooded over the earth. We moved in and out of it. We created the botany. We created all these different lives, animals, and everything else. And then we created a portal into humanity wherein we could take our own intelligence. The brain is not the intelligence. Our spirit, us, is the intelligence. And we created a portal where we could take our own intelligence and put it into the image and walk around as Word made flesh. We recast ourselves again to more vibration and frequency. We were in the higher vibrations of spiritual mind and theophany, and we created carnal mind, and we created all these different things, all these different elements, everything about us. We took them, what we had, and we recast them, wherein we created a portal into humanity. We created frequencies, and this portal was an attribute within us called woman. It was the way to bring all life, all theophany into humanity. It was a way to do it. We created it. And we formed the frequency and the vibration and the woman nature. All of these things, we begin to pull it out of ourselves and we begin to put it into the earth, and we begin to take on bodies. This portal was an attribute within us called the woman nature, female. All things that come into the earth come through the feminine nature in this world that we cast ourselves into. So we made a portal, whether it was a rabbit or a squirrel or a deer or a tree or any botany life or any bird life or any ocean life, everything comes through a woman, comes through the woman nature. We created a frequency and a vibration that we could step into and begin to cast ourselves into the earth and become the image of the living God. We are the living God, and we became our own image and began to walk around in the earth. So we see how we started out, how we moved in the earth, how we walked in the earth, how we put it on and off whenever we wanted. We done all sorts of things. Then we created a portal in a way to move ourselves into the botany life, into the animal life, into all the things that we had already made. We created a vibration and a frequency to move ourselves into that. We are all from the functional collective conscience. There is a great spirit. Simple way to put it, there is an ocean that is much bigger than us as an individual. And that ocean is the spirit. And that spirit measures out, uses the first, second, third dimensions, and measures out so much of itself to take on certain things about itself so it can discover its attributes. So we're all of that functional collective conscience. Some don't look like it, but we need every single thing that's happening. I know you've heard it from your prophet before. From the spider to the gnat that bats its eye to whatever, we need every single thing that's moving in order for us to get the articulate feeling and emotion that we wanted when we cast that portal and put ourselves into an image of ourselves and begin to live there. So we're all in that functional collective conscience. However, for a season of descent, we took on an image in spirit, wherein we could experience our attributes as they continue to break open in our lives. So during the descent, we recast ourselves to be held under restraints of tutors and governors and laws and creeds and dogmas and doctrines and everything under the sun, laws of nature you can't get out of, all sorts of laws. We chose to put it, when we moved through that portal, to put those frequencies in the earth to expand our understanding of ourselves. Now, it doesn't look like an expansion when you're going through it, but you first have to go through the descent in order to ascend and bring gifts, bring things out of you unto humanity and unto man. So we see this going on. Now, we took on an image in the spirit wherein we could experience our attributes as they continue to break open in our lives. Our dissension has been over an innumerable amount of years. Just go back, just humanity itself, we've just kept a track record of ourselves for like 1.3 million years. We know we can go back that far, just off of history. So, we know we go back much further than that. We've been recasting ourselves. How long we were theophany, I don't know. How long we were theophany, picking up earth and putting it back and living that way, Melchizedek form, I don't know. And then how long it took to form the portal and move into the earth and become our own image and likeness so we could understand ourselves. How long that took, I don't know. But I know it has been millions and millions and millions of years. And we descended from theophany. We recast ourselves into the earth, a recasting from theophany to earth, and then formed a portal in the earth to taste the attribute of humanity that laid within us. So we had the attribute in us to start with. Humanity was in us before we ever became humanity. And then we opened the portal, opened our attributes, started and formed the right frequencies and vibrations in the elements to bring us to where we're at today. Theophany recast ourselves into the earth and then formed a portal in earth to taste the attributes of humanity that were in us and laid within us. So let's make this transition for just a second here, this descent and ascent, easy to understand. We have never left eternity. Understand that. Just know that. You didn't leave eternity. You didn't go outside of eternity. Eternity is omnipresent. It's omniscient. It's eternity is always. And you are spirit. You are eternity. We have never left eternity. Rather, we are using our eternal attributes to recast ourselves into many different things in life, because that was the attributes that was in us, and we wanted to express them. We have never left eternity. We are using our eternal attributes to experience our nature that laid within us, experience our character. We came here. I know a lot of people want to say we were a soul long before we got here, but we came here to form a soul. We came here to become a living soul. We came here to become a character that we could look at and say, that's Don Parnell, that's Daryl Mell, that's Alan Copeland. It forms a character. Now, I can be on the other side of the world, wherever it might be, and someone will speak up and say, hey, Don, did you ever know Alan Copeland? You know what's going to come to my mind? That perfect form of Alan Copeland. I know him. I know his form. I know what he looks like. I know who he is. And I can create an image of Alan Copeland in my mind. That's what you did for yourself. You created an image in your mind of yourself. And then you formed a portal and a way to get into that image and live in it. It's a very simple process. We never left eternity. We use our eternal attributes to gain our experience, our nature, our feeling, and all of these different things. The transition in spirit was this simple. Theophany, earth, humanity. That's what we did. We moved. Theophany was a conscious part of the Great Spirit, the functional collective consciousness. The theophany is a conscious part of that Great Spirit. And then laying in the theophany, in the Great Spirit, was the attribute called earth. And what did we do? We, before we ever took on humanity, the earth has been here long before humanity, we formed the earth while we were still in spirit. We, God, you and me, man, created the heavens and the earth. And then once we got the heavens and the earth created into the forms and into the elements and into all the other types of creation that we wanted in our lives, we then said, let us make man in our image, or let us move God into that humanity and walk around in the creation that we formed. So we have been forming our moment in time for millions and millions and innumerable eons of light years. Every planet that was formed, every star that was formed, every piece of sand that was formed. Abraham, look to the stars of the heaven, so shall thy seed be. Abraham, look to the sands of the sea, so shall thy seed be. What are we? We are everything. We're in everything. We live in everything. We're omniscient. We are omnipotent. We are all of these things. We are living. We are God. We are the Spirit that created this thing and these things to enjoy ourselves in. And we moved from theophany to earth, put it on, took it off, done all these things, formed everything about the earth, formed all the lives and things about the earth, brought it up through its levels, and then we formed a portal for us to move through and begin to walk into the earth. So we moved from theophany into earth, then we moved from earth into humanity. We didn't display a triune conscience. There's not a theophany conscience and then an earth conscience and then a humanities conscience and then your individual conscience. No, it's all one conscience. It's all a functional collective conscience. But what happens is when we recast ourselves into something else, or when we take a piece or a measurement of that spirit and we form it into something, then we have done what? We have put restraints, lost our freedom, went into dissent. But we do that for a reason. We do it to understand every little bitty minute detail about ourselves, because we are eternal. And so we don't leave eternity, we are eternity, but we just take a little measurement of that ocean and we look at all the attributes, and what we do is we have a conscious mind. We didn't display a triune conscience. It's not like we had three consciences. But we opened our attributes of consciousness and of the Spirit and developed ourselves into the all in all. So we had these things in us, but we didn't know who we were. We had $1 million in our pocket, but didn't know how to use it. We had all sorts of things. So we said, you know what? I want to use this $1 trillion I have. And here's how I think I can use it. And we formed a portal. We took that woman nature out of ourselves. We put it into the earth. We began to move it throughout the earth, and we formed ourselves to where we could move into our own likeness and image and live in it. So we became the all in all, or we began to understand everything about ourselves and open up these things. We became the all in all, a spirit being that knows how to transform, shape-shift into physical or spiritual or both, depending on our descent and our ascent. As we're ascending and descending, we're shape-shifting the whole time. If not, Josiah, pull a picture of yourself out and take a look at it when you were 1 month old. And then look at yourself now. If you think you're not transforming continually every day, if you think that things are not forming in you, and you think that you're not creating a new person that gets up every morning out of that bed, well, you are. You are changing. You could take a month old, 5 years old, 10 years old, 20 years old, 30, and right on up, and you could put those pictures of yourself up, and you are looking at what you created and how you are transforming it through the elements of time. Time just meaning a section of eternity. So you're looking at all of your attributes. And we do this, and we form ourselves through physical attributes, through spiritual attributes. We form all kinds of rules and restraints about ourselves. We do all kinds of things to do this. Now, a spirit has a collective mind. You know that. Look at all the things you collected. You are spirit. You collected clothes. You collected houses. You collected vehicles. You've collected, and you just go on and on and on and on. You have a collective mind. You're pulling these things into your life. And as you do this, the Spirit has a collective mind that gathers all things and stores it inside 5 inlets. You have 5 inlets in yourself, and those inlets are memory, conscience, reason, affection, and imagination. These inlets you use so that everything you collect, you begin to understand it. Whether it's the carburetor that you begin to break down and understand how that needle moves and how this moves and that, whether it's gasoline, whether it's inventions, whether it is whatever it might be, everything that you collect as a spirit in the collective mind of the individual, you try to understand it. You try to understand a house. You set up a house. You set up windows because you don't want to have to be inside four walls where you can't see anything. You set up furnaces. You just go on and on and on. You set everything up in a manner of your mind, how you want things created around you and how you want to live. So we have these 5 memories, and as an individual, as a little measurement of eternity, you are doing all those things so that you can have the feeling, the emotion, the understanding of yourself in this great big macro spirit. So you got a micro of yourself and a macro of yourself. Because of our restraints coming through the portal, we took a little measurement called ourself, Don Parnell, put it through the portal, dropped out through the woman nature, and when I did that, I put restraints on myself coming through the portal, through this woman nature. For years, we use these inlets to gather everything we can, our friends, our loved ones, our family, gathering them from theophany form, gathering them from all the different places around the world, and everything else that we gather from all the different lives of botany and animal, and we got animals for friends, and we eat, everything we're doing, we're gatherers, we're pulling it all in through those 5 inlets, and we keep memories of it, conscience, reason. You eat something you like, you keep a memory of that. You know what you do? You'll go find it again because you liked it, and you'll eat it again, and you'll say, that's good. The taste, you put that memory into your mind, and you look for that piece of cake or that piece of meat or whatever it is every time you get a chance because you liked it. And then you may put something in your mouth that you say, ugh, and you almost gag. And you know what you'll do every time you think about it? Almost gag. You'll say, man, somebody sets that on the table, and you just look and say, Mom, I ain't eating that. I don't care what you say. I remember Joe a few times. He said, there's no way I'm putting that back in my mouth again. So you form everything by memory and by all of these different things, reasoning, affection, imagination, and you're gathering it all up. When we transform, for years we use these inlets to store for our individual desires, what we like and dislike, and we store it for our agenda, the things we want to accomplish in life. Right now, the boys, what you're doing more than anything else, you're storing education. You're storing information. You're putting it all in, and you're storing the feelings of what everything is, the different things that everyone says, because at some point you're going to have to use all that you've stored and put away in your educational process to have jobs, create places you want to live, and families, and everything else. So when we transform from the earth, we went from theophany to earth. Now I'm talking about when we transform from the earth, pass through the portal of woman into humanity, we display 3 attributes that keep us in restraint during our descent. And we descend into the human spirit, into humanity, and when we descend, we grow through our infancy, through our adolescence, and into our maturity. And we are storing everything, and we're restrained by tutors and governors. We're restrained by parents. We're restrained by aunts and uncles. We're restrained by what we can and can't do. We're restrained by teachers. We're restrained by on and on and on, coming through our infancy all the way through until we come to maturity. We have tutors, governors, and restraints on us because that was our descent. We descended into humanity. When our maturity begins to display itself, and we're well into feeling things, having emotion, being able to go to the storehouse of inlets, pull it out, and begin to use it. When maturity begins to display itself, we are well into feeling, having emotion about the collective mind and the body of the Spirit. The collective mind being the consciousness of who you are as an individual and your natural body. This body is a body of my spirit. And I am God living in this body. And you are too. And so now we've formed ourselves, but we begin to move into a different maturity. You begin to move into the collective mind, and you begin to think about, as you begin to gather what's yours, you begin to think about how much you need, how many people around you need some of it, how I'm going to raise my children, how I'm going to do this and that. You're doing all that you're beginning to form a collective mind that goes beyond your own individual body. And so for a season of descent, we were departmentalized, working under rule of law, obedience, building our individual consciousness with little thought to a more excellent conscience. Now remember, I said it's only one conscience, but it's a more excellent way. It's a more excellent. It's like Paul said, he said you can like all these gifts and you can do all this and that, but let me show you a more excellent way. What, was it not the Spirit doing the other things? Sure it was. Same Spirit. There is just a way to progress and become more excellent. And there's a way to progress in your conscience and become more excellent. And that is when you begin to live for others. You begin to even look at the collective mind of yourself all the way back in theophany and laying inside the great fountain of life all the way to here, and you can begin to picture every person. You were a part of them all. They were displaying what we wanted in the earth. So we see this for a season. We were departmentalized, working under the rule of law, obedience, and building our individual consciousness with little thought to a more excellent conscience. Not a different conscience, but a more excellent conscience. The same conscience that created the law for man, the same conscience that handed Moses a law to give to the world, the same conscience that created all of those things, it was an excellent way. Paul said that. Paul said the law was an excellent thing. It was a great thing. It was an excellent way. But we have moved into a more excellent way. A more excellent way to manifest our consciousness. Paul said, I will show you a more excellent way. And what was it? Corinthians 13. Love. He said you can have all these other things, but without love, you have not yet tapped into that collective, functional conscience of an entire body. You may have tapped into your own individual self, and you may be doing well at it. That's you, and that's fine. But we need to come to a point we come into this greater, this more excellent conscience. Give up your collective attributes that search for ways to bolster your ego, your individual desires, and the ways in which an individual thinks. Move into the functional collective mind and how the entire web of universe, earth, theophany, earth, and humanity is all connected together, and begin to think in that manner, and you'll begin to see what your moment in time is, how you will functionally progress the entire consciousness of the universe and humanity. So we have this going on in our lives. Give up those individual ways, move into the functional collective mind of the universe, of the body of the earth, and of the whole of humanity. Now when I say give up the restraint, that's what I'm talking about. The uncertainty, the mind of the individual. I'm not saying don't use that conscience. Use the conscience as an individual. You need to collect things. You need to understand. You need to figure out careers in life. You need to figure out what you're going to do with yourself, with your family, with on and on and on. You need all that. And I'm not saying throw it away and don't think that way anymore, but I'm saying come to a completion, come to a finished product to where that moves in your life automatically. But you yourself, you're thinking of a much larger conscience, a much larger thing that's going on. So I'm not saying don't use your conscience that you sorted through and you grew up into maturity with. That'd be kind of silly to make a car, complete car, bring it off the assembly line and then throw it away. That's not a smart individual. You make a car, you put it all together, you use that individual collective mind, but then when it comes time and it's a finished product and it's completed, you begin to use it in a manner to help others, to help yourself, to be a better person, to have a higher consciousness, to do all those things. So, it is all the same mind. It's all the same mind. It's a matter of progression. Many men and women as individuals invented and opened amazing things through that individuality. They made it rich. Ford, his whole family. You could just keep naming them off. Look at Elon Musk today. They made it rich. And they did that in mind as an individual and as an ego. They were pushing themselves that way. But now you see them as you become older. Now some don't. You got some that all they can think about is themselves. But then you got some that begin to move into a greater way of thinking and a greater conscience and a greater agenda than just myself. Many men and women as individuals invented and opened amazing things. Look at the opening of those seals. William Branham, seventh messenger, he moved out of that mind of the church ages and he took on a greater collective consciousness at the opening of the seals. Ponder on the technology. Just look at it. Just think of yourself. This is 2022. Go back 100 years. And just think of yourself. You say, well, I'm not that old, Brother Parnell. Yes, you are. You're not thinking of yourself that way. Think of yourself as collective. All of those were me. And think of yourself coming through and look at what you've accomplished. Look at the opening of those seals, the pondering of technology and science that has come from individuals. Great, smart. You could just keep naming them off, from Tesla to Einstein to Edison and just keep naming them one after the other and come down the other line, the spiritual line, not the science line, the spiritual line. Look at all of them. Look at the political line. Some very great men that done some wonderful things for this world through politics. So what we're talking about is get off of the individual concept of yourself and move into the collective mind of how that it's a holistic earth, a holistic body, and we're in it and we're moving about it. What I'm saying is give it over to a greater way of thinking for the whole of theophany, earth, and humanity. This is our moment in time. Use everything that you're capable of using. You brought yourself down through all of history, all of humanity, down from theophany into earth, brooded over the earth, created all of this beauty, everything. You did it. You did it. Sounds, vibrations, frequencies, animals, the beauty of everything. You did it. You brought yourself all the way through. Now we come into this little moment of time where that you are going to be able to detail yourself. Don't throw all that away with your ego and everything else. Pull it up, take a good look and say, you know what? I'm here for the greater good. Use everything that you're capable of using. Use it all for the good of the earth, for humanity. The universe is a living being. We used to be told by science, it's just elements. We know better now. It breathes, it extracts, it expands, it detracts, it breathes, it lives, there is an intelligence of the universe that moves every star, every speck, every dust, everything, and it's all connected into that web of the great consciousness, the full functional consciousness of this entire body of the universe. So we're here. This is our moment. Use it all. The universe is a living being, thriving and moving, thinking, holding all things in perfect sync and in perfect flow. And we are the universe. The earth is our present body in use. We moved out of theophany. We moved out of theophany just using the earth to where we have become the earth. And we are walking in the earth, and we are the Word made flesh. The earth is our present body in use, and it is eternal. It's not going anywhere. Let your spirit brood again. Think about this. You brooded over it when it was particles without without form, void, darkness. And you, as a collective spirit, brooded over it and formed it into all this beauty, from nothingness, from emptiness, to the beauty of what you look at every single day. You hear the birds, you watch the rabbits, you see the flowers bust out in the spring. It's all yours in all of this beauty, and you brought it from no form and void and darkness throughout the whole thing. And you brooded over it as the Spirit, as God, and you brought it to this beauty. Now let your spirit brood again, as it did in the earth. And you moved the earth to this beauty. Now let it brood over humanity. I can't do that, Brother Parnell. Yes, you can. You can take your mind out of the individual. You can take it out of the theophany way. You can move it past the earth way. You can move it into humanity. In the same way you brooded over the earth and brought it to beauty, you can think and love and do and act and push yourself through humanity and brood over it, and you can bring it to the beauty that it should be. Us as collective characters can do that. And as we brought the earth to the point that we said in all of its beauty, we looked at it, we brooded over it, we said, it is good. Let's do the same thing in this present attribute of humanity. We were in the attribute of the earth. We moved on to the attribute of humanity. Let's do the same thing. We brought our body to a place of beauty in the earth. We looked at it, we said, this is beautiful. Now we need to form a portal and get in it and live in it. And we did that. Now let's collectively gather and brood and cast a humanity that we can say, it is good. You can do it. We are doing it. We have moved humanity through 1.3 million years, and we brought the detail of humanity, and it's moving forward and becoming greater and greater and greater all the time. We brought our body in the place of beauty in the earth form. Collectively gather and brood and cast humanity the same way you cast the earth, and say it is good. If you can't say that, you're still wrestling with the portal entry. I'm past the portal. I'm past all that. And I'm looking around, and everyone says, look at all this, Brother Parnell. Look at the horrible things that are happening. I don't look at it. I see humanity as good. And I'm going to continue to brood over it until it is everything that I desire for it to be. It's our moment. If you can't say it is good, you're still wrestling with the portal entry. You've not yet touched the collective mind of the Spirit. You've collected a lot of things for yourself. You've collected a lot of things under that restraint and under all of those laws and tutors and governors. But you've not yet come to a collective mind to look at it all and say it is good, if you're still wrestling with whether or not it's good. Don't wrestle with it. It's our moment in time right now. We're living in a completely different age, and it is completely a new beginning. Just as it was back there in the beginning, we created the heavens and the earth. Here we are again. We're in a beginning, and in this beginning we are perfecting humanity and bringing harmony into the earth and into the universe. We're connecting the three attributes of theophany, earth, and humanity. We're bringing those three attributes of our consciousness to one now. And as we bring it to one, we're doing so with one consciousness, the collective consciousness of Christ. I like what this brother said, and I can't remember his name, but he said, from the glory of today's word, our message, I have understood, I really love this, that reading the Bible is having a conversation with our finest brothers and sisters who have changed their mix but are still here with us in a dimension, a transformation on the unseen, but they left with us things to discuss with us. I like that. When you come to that understanding, that when you enter a book, you're entering a nature of a man or a woman that lived here. And they're still alive. And they're right here. But you are having a relationship and a conversation with that person. This is moving to the vibration and frequency of a collective conscience. I can work with the conscience of Moses. I can work with the conscience of Elijah. I can talk and accept and read the things that they left me and also feel their spirit, although it's unseen. I can do all those things, and it moves me into a collective consciousness. It spans across eternity and is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient in all dimensions. Step into this mind and forget about it's just you trying to get a little education, and think more about this is the whole collective consciousness of the Spirit, and I'm able to communicate with somebody that lived 6,000 years ago. And I'm able to communicate with somebody. I'm able to communicate with men that formed the United States of America. I'm able to communicate with the prophets of Israel. I'm able to do all these things. Get out of your little individual measurement and get into the greater, the more excellent conscience. Step into this mind and you have the ability and the availability of all who have ever walked on the face of the earth or ever will. You have the ability of dealing and have the ability and the availability of talking with them every day. We have seen altogether the process of both heaven and earth in us. Jesus was son of the morning, Revelations 22:16. And also Lucifer was son of the morning, Isaiah 14:12. We are being recast, becoming a Lucifer process in our mother's womb. That's what happened to us in darkness. And then we broke out of the mother's womb and destroyed the world of darkness and become a living soul, and humanity began to develop our soul. So we went through the descent, came all the way here, put ourselves in restraints to understand ourselves, and as we begin to sense the frequency of the age, you begin to come to the greater consciousness, not just your ego, not just your little measurement, but come to the greater consciousness. You begin to sense the frequency of the age. We fully regained our knowledge, our logic, and our understanding back to its original position, and by unlearning all the things that beset us to establish the message of love divine in the earth. That's what we're doing now. It's our moment in time. It wasn't their moment in time to establish love divine in the earth. They established justification in Luther. They established sanctification in Wesley. They established the law in Moses. You could go on and on. That was their establishing. That was their availability. That was who they were. That was our part of the consciousness at that time. But now is our moment in time to establish love divine, to establish holistic, to establish and understand that light and darkness are not two different things. They are one thing working together to bring out a full consciousness in a holistic being. So we see this. As we begin to sense that frequency, the descending and ascending process of growth lives within us the very life and death of humanity. We are destroying the old heaven and earth, but our words still remain. That's right. We're stepping out of the old consciousness, but it's the same consciousness. It still remains. It's still here, and we can use it in every way that we want, but we have a greater way of using it also. We're destroying the old heaven and earth, but our words still remain the same, filling the universal act of oneness through humanity, through consciousness. We are the life and death messenger, and we are. Joshua was a life messenger to Rahab, but he was a death messenger to Jericho. Moses was a life messenger to Israel, but he was a death messenger to Egypt. You could go on and on and on with this concept. We are the life and death messenger, maturing the endless cycle of growth in humanity. How great you are through Christ that lives within us. That was Brother Tiano. This is the holistic collective consciousness. That's what we're talking about. We never used it before because we always separated everything out. We didn't want anything to do with the world. We didn't want anything to do with, we wanted to separate ourselves from anyone displaying worldliness. Someone wore their clothes the way we didn't think they should, and we've done this, and we'd separate, we'd split, do all kinds of things. But now we've come to a holistic consciousness working in us. We recognize that we are all things, and we have come to the ability in spirit to transform our processes into experiences. So we found a way, the availability and the ability to transform all of our attributes and our processes and everything that was laying in us as God. We found a way to display it in an image and likeness of ourself. The greatest battle, sorting out things. This is Brother Felix Uwe. The greatest battle, sorting out things, and it is. There is your carnal and your theophany, that those two attributes of your very consciousness, trying to sort things out. The theophany wants to live in the logic that it had before. The carnal consciousness wants to live in the earth because it understands the earth. Carnal means flesh, carne in Spanish. So it's flesh. And what are we doing? We have two attributes of the consciousness, and they're having to sort out what's the best way to live here. And what do? They sort out the best way through battle, through whatever it is, and they come to what? A spiritual mind. They come to a way that they can live best right here in the earth, live inside the consciousness and understanding of the collective functionality of the body, and live here and enjoy it. And if you can't live here and enjoy it, then start putting your mind towards that goal, that understanding, that all of this is to live long, prosper, and enjoy. The greatest battle, sorting out things. It's the greatest battle ever fought between our carnal mind, fifth dimension, and our thinking, the logic mind, sixth dimension. The outcome, that battle is our spiritual mind. The outcome of that battle is our spiritual mind. We sort through it, and then we come to a spiritual consciousness. This is how it works. Listen to me. You need to find the way things work for you. If you're doing things that don't work for you, then sort it out and get out of it and get into the things that work for you. Whatever those things might be. The outcome of this battle is our spiritual mind, seventh dimension. All of this is happening right in our dimension of discovery, our fourth dimension. We pull 3 dimensions at a lower level in, we pull 3 dimensions at a higher level in, and we sort them out in the fourth dimension, and we develop our soul, and we come to a living soul, living in it, and we come to a spiritual being by working through this conflict. What is happening is that our 3 higher dimensions, 5th, 6th, and 7th, summon up the 3 lower dimensions, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, into our 4th dimension, which is discovery, as an instrument to measure 3rd dimension. We measure matter and element, 2nd dimension, and we measure emptiness, space. We measure all these things, and we begin to put together a person and a character that we want to be. That's what we're doing every day of our lives, using all these dimensions. It's all about how we sort out things, come to growth, come to a spiritual mind, and figure out in this earth, as God, how do things work for us? That's what this is about. It's all about how we sort them out. This is bringing together our moment in time collectively. What are we sorting out now? Solomon, I think, said it in one of his Ecclesiastes or one of them, Proverbs. He said that I once was young and now I'm old. And I have found this one thing. Serve God and do His commandments. That's a pretty simple process for the wisest man on earth. Serve God and do His commandments. Now, I know what a lot of you did. You immediately looked out there and said, yes, God, I'll serve you. Who in the world is God? It's us. Serve one another, and the laws and the natures of humanity, follow after them, and you will find that things work for you in life. When you butt up against those things, you'll find things don't work for you in life. This is bringing us together. Life and death together. The earth continually gives us a message of death and life, past and present. Jesus said, I am the resurrection. My earth is my resurrection. He was in His resurrection. I'm in mine. My earth is my resurrection. This is a new day, and I'm not looking for a body to resurrect out of the grave, or a resurrection of a body 2,000 years ago. I'm not trying to live in that. It happened, and we took part in that, but now we are in our time, in our moment in time of resurrection. I was 9 months buried in my mother's womb. The door rolled open and I walked out to use continually in my consciousness. Today I see attributes rising out of me. The present tells me, and we are rising up in the consciousness to a new world and to live in this present life. We're doing it all the time. The earth around me, the earth that is in me, tells me that what falls into this ground and dies will rise up, will rise out from me and be fruitful. So every time I fall into a restraint, I know without a shadow of doubt, I'm going to overcome it, I'm going to come out of it, and I'm going to be fruitful. And everything that I died in while I was in that restraint, in that uncertainty, in that loss of freedom, I will gain it back fruitfully. I know that without a shadow of a doubt. I will rise out, be fruitful. For this is the evolution and the flow of nature. We set it up. We set the vibration up. Look at the flowers. Look at the daisy. Look at the daffodils. Look at the leaves coming back on the trees now. Look at the grass coming out and it's green where it was brown. Look at everything. What is this that's going on? We created it, vibrations and frequencies of life in our body for us to enjoy, smell, see, taste, feel, hear, and load it into our very consciousness, our 5 inlets, and enjoy life. We are rising up. Today, we raise up. My constant conscience is a change of life. We're raising up. Today, my life begins. Pastor Joe. The unseen is our world of discovery, where our soul takes us from. We are that spirit bringing forth our soul in expression. Someone says, the soul is unseen. No, it's not. The soul is what you see. The soul is what you develop. There's not a soul floating around here that you can't see. You're talking about a spirit. The spirit is unseen. That's why we created an image and stepped into it and formed a portal to get into it so we could begin to see God, see ourselves, and we could begin to see spirit. And how do we see it? In the soul we created. We see it in the soul. The soul is animals. The soul is birds. The soul is trees. The soul is man. The soul is all of this botany, everything. This is all our soul. We created it. We made it. The soul is the most visible thing about a human being. Look at it. It's us. Our spirit is living in it. And it is our character that we have created all around us. Stop trying to figure out. Someone said, oh, when a person dies, the soul leaves the body. That science has even said that their body becomes lighter. Well, I don't know what left them. Maybe you say the spirit left them. But the soul is the earth and the things we formed. It's a living, it's a seen thing that the unseen created so we could enjoy it. Enjoy your soul. It's all around you. I know that scares people, but that's okay. When this takes place, then the unseen and the seen become one. The God and the earth become one where? In the soul. The soul in the earth, in everything that we created, this we become a living, a moving, an emotional, a feeling soul. And you're looking right at it. When I look at that tree, it's my soul. When I look at that bird flying across, it's a soul. When I look at that squirrel out there, it's my soul. Everything here is my soul, your soul. We're looking at it. It's real. It's visible. When this takes place, then the unseen and the seen become one. Jesus said, when you see me, then you see the Father. That's fairly simple to me. Thank you, Brother Joe. Beautiful to me. You're looking at our soul. You're looking at who we are. It's real. It's grass. It's birds. It's bees. It's flowers. It's people. It's soul. Not an unseen thing. It's the one sure thing that we see is the soul. Our spirit created this soul to live in its character. That's what this is about. Amen. Go ahead, Brother Al. Know who you are. Reach out. Take those things within you and let it develop you and make you the soul that you always wanted to be. Amen.